Sports, 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 sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to Sportsball, part of the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. We talk about sports-related topics, but we focus on you, the fan, and what you like, whether it's a sport, team, event, athlete, or sports-related news. This week, we're going to be talking about all things NFL, and we're going to be talking a little bit of everything from just some of the news that's happened over the off season, just some recent developments, give you some bold predictions. What I won't tell you is surmise anything from the preseason because I don't think preseason success is an indicator of actual season anything. So I love all these videos. They're like, this is what we learned from week one of the postseason. And we're like, well, in reality, we didn't learn jack shit from the first weekend of the NFL preseason. But let's take a look back. And the NFL has not had a very good summer. So even going into today with the recent Jon Gruden news, but let's start back a little bit that this whole situation with the NFL Players Association executive director potentially not handling a lot of things in the players' best interest, that potentially the owners were involved. It feels a little bit like borderline collusion, and there's just a lot of just bad juju there. I don't know how the NFLPA would have recovered if their current director would have kept going, but the fact that he resigned, which that was the right move, he absolutely should have resigned. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think there needs to be an investigation into this, and I think the players need to kind of pick somebody that is going to have their best interest at heart because if it is true what all of is going on with that news story, that the NFL players were potentially screwed out of some money because of older players, because of injury prone players, and ownership is the one that directed the NFL Players Association to kind of assist with that, then that is trust that can only be won back by a lot of hard work and some time with that. So unfortunately also this shooting that happened at the by the NFL headquarters, at least in the same building, overshadowed this a little bit, and that's a terrible tragedy. Had that situation gone a different way, I feel like the NFL probably would have been in much worse shape, at least the top brass at the league office in New York. Because of that incident, I think the NFL is going to be making a big push for more security at their NFL ballpark. So wondering exactly how that's going to play out from a safety standpoint. But the big news that came out today about the NFL is that Jon Gruden, who sued the NFL for leaking the information that led to his ousting as the then Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders coach, he ended up winning a judgment that said that yeah, the NFL did leak this information out, and I don't think this is going to get Jon Gruden his job back, whether that is with the NFL as a consultant or a coach. I don't think it's even going to get him a job in like media or anything like that. I think this is going to restore a little bit of his good name, but I also think that Gruden, like I would never go so far as to say he deserved to get fired or anything like that. But if a player had done anything like what Jon Gruden did in those emails, that I don't think the outcome would have been the same. I think that player would have gotten blackballed, and I think Jon Gruden right now is just damaged goods. So that's the NFL is just not having a great summer in particular, and I think once football starts back up again, I think people will be, very excited. There will be a lot of questions that are coming about with these three big news stories. The kind of piece of like interesting news for the NFL is that ESPN bought the NFL Network and NFL Red Zone. They swiped that away from YouTube. I wonder how that kind of happened, but ESPN did that for a lot of money, and part of the exchange was ESPN the NFL gets a small cut of ESPN, which I'm wondering if at some point the sports channel or that ESPN is just going to be something that's owned by all of the sports networks and not by a company like Disney. Because to me, this feels kind of weird to for ESPN to do this deal specifically with the NFL. And granted, the NFL is king in the US, so I get why, because there's the ratings are up for the NFL. The NFL Network is just filled with amazing talent, and then Red Zone is perhaps one of the most innovative things that has come out in major sports television in like maybe ever. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to incorporate that and what they're going to do with that. I'm just wondering a little bit if they sold their soul a little bit in order to just get all of this stuff for the NFL. And I'm wondering how some of the other sports networks are going to feel now that the NFL partially owns like a very small cut of ESPN, because it's bad enough that ESPN already just focuses so much on the NFL, but now it's just going to be that more than anything. So I wonder what baseball's thinking about that. I wonder what basketball is going to be thinking about that. And I wonder if they're just going to focus so much of their attention on those three things and even like a little bit more into college football too. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. So with that being said, here are some bold predictions for the 2025 season, and I'll start with some of the negative ones first and kind of pivot into some of the more positive ones. So my first prediction is that I think this is going to be Aaron Rodgers last year. I think he all but said that, but I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be so toxic in Pittsburgh that it's going to get Mike Tomlin either fired or get him to quit. Now, I've seen this story happen so many times with Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know what's going on with him, but he's just not the same player. He's just not the same person as well. So I think he's just going to be bad news for Pittsburgh, which has been an amazingly steady franchise. I'm not sure what happened with the quarterback situation over the last couple of years. So, well, pretty much since Ben Roethlisberger retired. So I think Aaron Rodgers is this is going to be his final year, but it's also going to cost Mike Tomlin his job one way or another, where he's like, I'm not putting up with this, or he's going to get fired. The second thing is that, but before Mike Tomlin gets fired, I think the first NFL head coach to get fired this season is going to be Brian Daboll of the New York Giants. I think the Giants are going to have a pretty good year, but I think Brian Daboll is going to pay the price for it. And I just like I think he should have gotten fired last year, but whatever. It is what it is. The next one, another kind of bold move. I think this is going to be Trevor Lawrence's last year in Jacksonville. And I think that they're going to find a way to trade him somehow. Yes, he's owed a ton of money, but I think that they're either going to give him a chance to win elsewhere because they'll probably get a king's ransom for it. And I think Jacksonville is just going to just continue to implode. The next thing as well is that I think Detroit is going to come back to earth a little bit now that Ben Johnson is out, but I still think they're going to make the playoffs, and I think the NFC North is going to be one of the most competitive competitive divisions in all of football. I'm not going to go so far as to say that all four teams are going to make it, but I think it's going to be much more competitive than I would say the NFC East, which has historically been a very competitive division, which leads me to I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a sophomore slump, but he's still going to lead Washington to the playoffs. Most recently, CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans has been not full on regressing, but I think some people have been starting to figure him out a little bit more. So yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is going to struggle a little bit, but not so much that he's going to cost Washington a spot in the playoffs. I think Micah Parsons is going to get traded at some point. I read about some of the potential targets, and I think the one that probably would move the needle the most would be if Micah Parsons gets traded to the Jets. And I think the Jets will make the playoffs this year with just like an all-world defense and just a pretty middling offense. As a Bears fan, I want Justin Fields to succeed, but also it is kind of discouraging to see that Justin Fields just is not taken off the way that so many people thought that he would. So I think that he's going to, Justin Fields is going to have a good year. Just, I think he's also going to get exposed as like, yeah, this is the guy who typically is, like he's not going to last very long in the NFL. I do think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a bounce back year. I do think Travis Kelce, I believe this is his last year. But I don't also foresee the Chiefs making the Super Bowl this year because I do think that this is the year that Josh Allen finally beats the Chiefs in the playoffs and he leads the Bills to the Super Bowl. Then one other prediction I have is I do think Shador Sanders will be the Cleveland Browns starter by week 6, but I think Cam Ward looks fantastic for the Tennessee Titans, and I think he's going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And my last bold prediction, not really that bold, but just something I want to get out there. I think the Eagles are going to repeat as Super Bowl champs as long as everybody stays healthy and blah, 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 blah. I just think that the Eagles are just heads and shoulders above most of the competition in the NFC. And I think the AFC is going to be a battle to see who goes up against them. So we'll see what happens from there. I will be back with some Chicago Bears talk coming up soon, and I'll be talking about the NFL plenty. But I'm really excited that NFL preseason has started because that just means football is a couple weeks away. So I'm really excited about that. But that's going to do it for this episode of Sportsball. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website and shout out to HiFlyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. I greatly appreciate their support. And if you have any marketing, logo, or brand standard needs, contact them at HiFlyerCreative.com. Check out the other shows on our network. We've got a lot of great content. I'm very proud of the work that everyone is doing on the network. So if you're interested in anything like movies, TV, if you're interested in comic books, if you're interested in trivia, if you're interested in food as well, we just got a new partnership with a food podcast that I'm really excited for everyone to check out. Check it out. Just check out the other shows on the network. And finally, if you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at gmail.com. Until next time, pain heals, chicks dig scars, glory lasts forever.